26th day of June 2025. A lot has been transpiring across the country, especially in the wake, or rather later after the protest yesterday. And we have quite varied reports concerning various matters that have transpired, and also responses and reactions from various factions within the Republic of Kenya. For this and more, thank you for joining us right now for the Kutv News, primetime news this Thursday. But first, let's take a look at tonight's top stories. President William Ruto lays assent to the Finance Bill and Appropriation Bill 2025-2026. At least 16 confirmed fatalities with over 400 injured in the June 25th Memorial Days.
Na hii ni kazi ya goons ambayo tumeona hapa.
Ata MP Gitonge Mukunji distances himself from planning the Embu protest on the 25th of June 2025. And the Kenyatta University and Kentucky University organize a medical camp in Kijabe, seeking to bridge the healthcare gap in the area. Welcome to the broadcast that is also streaming live on YouTube at KUTV News Kenya, and also feel free to interact with us through our social media platforms at KUTV_Kenya on the X platform and KUTV Kenya on Facebook. My name is Emmanuel Kutosi, and the sign language interpretation will be sailing through with Sami Okelo. Now, President William Ruto has signed into law 3 key pieces of legislation of the 2025 Finance Bill, Appropriation Bill, and the Supplementary Budget during a ceremony at State House, Nairobi. This follows the passage in Parliament, with MPs having scrapped a controversial clause that would have granted the Kenya Revenue Authority unchecked access to citizens' personal data.
In a brief ceremony held at State House, Nairobi on Thursday, the President gave his final assent to the bill in the presence of senior parliamentary leaders from both the majority and minority sides.
And compassion. As the world mourns its colossal loss.
The signing comes against the backdrop of the Gen Z-led commemorative protest that brought parts of Nairobi to a standstill, echoing last year's unrest over the 2024 Finance Bill, which Ruto was ultimately forced to reject following intense public pressure.
Education sector, Your Excellency, also gets a good share of 658.4 billion.
The bill proposes amendments to the Income Tax Act, Value Added Tax Act, Tax Procedures Act, Miscellaneous Fees and Levies Act, Stamp Duty Act, and the Excise Duty Acts.
Excellency, the last bill for the day is a finance bill.
One of the most controversial proposals in the finance bill was a clause that would have granted the Kenya Revenue Authority, KRA, sweeping powers to access individuals and businesses' personal data, including bank and mobile money records, without the notice of the court. Amid intense pressure from the civil society and the ongoing Gen Z protest, lawmakers removed the clause during parliamentary debates. Patricia Alex for KUTV.
Now, at least 16 people lost their lives and more than 400 were injured during the anniversary of the June 25th, 2024 anti-finance bill protest. Amnesty Kenya has attributed most fatalities to police brutality, reigniting outrage over security excesses and renewed concerns around media suppression during national unrest.
The demonstrations marking the first anniversary of last year's deadly anti-finance bill protest turned chaotic as police officers clashed with protesters in various counties, leading to at least 16 deaths, in which more number continues to rise and over 400 injuries encountered. Amnesty Kenya's Executive Director Erigu Hangton stated that most of the victims were killed by police officers. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, which verified the death toll with amnesty, cited allegation of excessive use of force, including the use of rubber bullets and live ammunition. The Independent Policing Officer confirmed that 61 people were arrested during the protest. Kenyatta National Hospital reported treating 107 people, primarily for gunshot-related injuries. Among the deceased was a Kenya Power security guard who was shot while on duty in Nairobi. The death incidences were experienced in Matu, Emali, Ongatarongai, Embakasi, Juja, Kikuyu, Molo, Olkalau, and Ngara. The recent deaths caused by gunshots fired by police officers continue to spark outrage among the Kenyans, especially the Gen Zs. Killing of the late teacher and blogger Alberto Juang has ignited a second wave of protests against brutality and extrajudicial killings in the country. Vincent Karoli, KUTV.
Now, as the Gen Z protest marks 1 year since its rise, attention now rises and looks towards the matters concerning it in the 2027 general polls that are expected. Political experts and also young activists spoke to our reporter Blue Smile Hassan and were able to share their sentiments, particularly on where they think the movement is going in matters of the political arena.
When they took to the streets on 25th June 2024, their plight was not just against the finance bill, but also they demanded accountability and good governance. They did this through a series of events that changed the course of the country's political landscape. 1 year later, we look into the Gen Z movement and its potential impact on the upcoming 2027 elections. After successfully rejecting the 2024 finance bill,
we want nothing to do with this finance bill 2024. I concede.
Forcing President Ruto to reshuffle his cabinet, it became clear that this movement holds undeniable power. This influence has both attracted and unsettled many politicians across the nation. Regardless of the political affiliation, many leaders agree on one point, that the Gen Z will shape the 2027 elections. In this feature, we seek to answer the question, can they really do it? We had the opportunity to speak with several Gen Z youth who told us how the Gen Z are preparing themselves ahead of the 2027 elections. The young people who engaged are university students from various institutions across the country. The Gen Zs have been using social media to fight for their rights, publicly criticizing the government and even taking to the streets in protest. Despite these efforts, 1 year later, many of them feel that the government is not listening to their demands.
No, we have not achieved our political goal. We have not achieved.
The youths have continuously maintained that they want good governance, accountable leaders, and leaders free of corruption.
We wanted change and overhaul right away from the legislature, from the executive, right? When the president dissolved the cabinet, we thought that he is now going to get us new people, but now the same people were again recycled, right? So we have not achieved whatever we wanted. We wanted accountability in government, and that is what we are still pushing for, and we are not going to get tired of it.
Professor David Menja, a professor of strategy, governance, and public policy at Kenyatta University, describes the Gen Z as youth hungry for change who seek a government that prioritizes citizens over political self-interest.
I see it as a movement that is hungry for change and positive change. They have seen what their parents have gone through, the struggles that have to do with governance. And so they would want to see a better governance framework that takes care of the citizens, that is not leader-focused, but citizen-focused.
According to Professor Menja, the young people want a nation led by ethical leaders.
have in this country are people who are highly skilled, but have no character. That is what is eating us. Leaders who are proficiently competent, technically competent, but they have no character. So until the time we get a leader or a crop of leaders who will champion character, ethics, integrity, which we don't have in this government, even in the previous one, then we are still not going anywhere.
In this 1 year since the rise of the Gen Z movement, the youth have shown resilience in their quest for good governance.
The level of resilience among Gen Z is so high, and that's why they still push. They tend to protest last year. It has not stepped down. Nothing has been done, and I can say it's ongoing. It's a protest that is ongoing, on and on. And with that, I can say they don't give up. Gen Zs are so resilient.
Despite all this, the Gen Z movement faces a significant political challenge as 2027 approaches. The youth, who mostly organize themselves via social media, have been criticized for failing to form or join political parties.
Power is only given through political parties. And our constitution says that Kenya will be recognizes Kenya as a republic, then follows to say that we'll be a multi-party state. So for as long as the youths don't form a political party, then we only leave it at words.
The Gen Z have also been criticized for their tendency to reject everything, especially any political figure who steps forward claiming to represent the movement, branding them traitors.
It may be right or wrong to avoid or to depopularize the inject party, because if the party is an inject party, then you put the inject party into government, then what will they inject?
Analysts suggest that this behavior may have stemmed from a fear of being infiltrated by politicians, especially with the recurring allegations that young leaders are quickly bought off once they gain political relevance.
Even amongst our Gen Zs, we have those who are now being used, right, to divide the unity of our Gen Zs, because we are united moving in this direction, and then now the political class comes and pinpoints and or rather handpicks a few of them, right? Maybe they are called somewhere, they're given an envelope, right? And now they try to divert our attention.
Visions within the movement have also emerged. One camp believes in immediate leadership change, a view many consider as anarchy.
Leadership change will never come in an instant, instantly, like you're stamping out an infection. It's a process.
There is also another camp that believes that they should wait for the next election, with this group focusing on civic education and urging all youth to register as voters.
Now that the only weapon that we have is taking the voters card, right? So I personally am going to be in the forefront to mobilize the young people first, to have that weapon of the voters card. Then I'm going to scrutinize each and every leader, right away from the MCA all the way to the president, because that is the only way that we're going to make reforms in a democratic way.
And even with these efforts, there remains a real risk that the youth may boycott the 2027 elections.
They are taken to be like the largest voting bloc, but there are factors that will make them not appear to vote. We'll have a scenario like we had last year. We have a population of 47 million and total votes casted are only 14 million. So even if you had all the votes that were casted, 100%, everyone voted for you, the voice of the general public, the 47 million, hasn't been heard. You haven't even met half of the 47 million.
7 results or outcomes will purely depend on how Gen Zs prepare themselves and they behave.
As days unfold, the question of whether or not the Gen Z vote will decide the 2027 election is a question that only time can tell. Blue Ismail Hassan, KUTV.
All right, away from that, thank you, Blue Smile, for that report. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is under fire from a section of political leaders and online activists who allege that the rhetoric may have influenced or emboldened recent youth protests. While he dismissed the claims as baseless, the pressure is mounting as youth-led push for reforms continues to swell.
Role models and examples. Even now we've been told ODM, the members who are here, Junet Mohammed, Millie Odhiambo, are examples on how we should be demonstrating. Honorable Speaker, as I watch the leaders who went to the streets, including a former Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, and for once, I asked myself whether really this is what a former Chief Justice should be doing. I saw another former Vice President of the country, Kalonzo Musyoka, carrying a wreath to go and lay on behalf of those who had lost their lives.
Now, in response, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has condemned the use of excessive force on protesters, accusing Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen of misinforming the public. Gachagua also announced a suspension of his political activities, particularly within Embu County, in honor of those who lost their lives during yesterday's protests. Now head on to Embu County, and where leaders in this particular county have condemned the destruction and looting witnessed during Wednesday's demonstration. Religious, business and political figures are now calling for calm and full investigation into the chaos that overshadowed the Gen Z Memorial protests.
The Member of Parliament for Manyata Gitonga Mukunji has condemned the destruction and claimed that it was carried out by thugs allegedly hired from other counties. He emphasized that the violence undermined the legitimacy of peaceful protests and urged citizens to report information to the authorities.
Watu ambao wanajaribu kuleta jina langu kwa hii maneno ni watu ambao wanajulikana. Gavana ya Embu juzi usiku alikuwa ametoka akasema anajua kuna goons zinapangwa kutoka sijui wapi Kirinyaga. Na hii ni kazi ya goons ambayo tumeona hapa.
Chairman of the Embu business community, Mugo Mate, expressed concern over the economic impact, saying that hundreds of people have lost their jobs. He called on the youth to bring change through the ballot and not through violence.
Embu, there is a total destruction. Very unfortunate kwa sababu sasa watu ambao walikuwa wako kwa biashara sasa wamekuwa ni watu wamesukumwa nje ya biashara. Tukiangalia watu kama Madhai, ile supermarket yetu iko pale ambapo imeporwa kila kitu. Na hii uporanji, mimi sitasema ni ya uporanji wa watu wa maandamano ya amani. Tutasema hii ni uporanji ambayo inaonekana ni kama kuna watu walikuwa wamejipanga.
With sadness, Bishop Peter Kimani of the Embu Catholic Church inspected the damage and stated the violence had derailed the original intent of the protests. He called for a national dialogue involving political leaders, civil society organizations, and religious groups to address the challenges facing Kenyans.
Hizwi kuna mbinu nyingi sana ambazo tunazostahili kuzitumia. Kunao makanisa ambao ni maaskofu wetu ambao wanaweza kuzungumziwa, kunao viongozi wa mawakili, wanaharakati wa haki za binadamu. Hizo zote kama tunaweza kuzitumia, we can be able to get somewhere. So ningeomba tu wa Kenya hasa tuweze kuombea amani katika.
The most affected areas include offices of the National Bank, NSSF, KRA, and several restaurants where crucial equipment was stolen. Business owners such as Jacques, whose restaurant was vandalized, expressed concern about the growing impact of protests in the country.
Waliingia kwa bucheri yangu, wakachukua zile nyama zilikuwa pale, na wakaingia kwa fridge. Hata siwezi jua ni kuku ngapi walichukua, kwa sababu nilikuwa nimechukua asubuhi kujitayarisha kama kawaida kila siku. Then tulikuwa tumefunga sisi. Si ati tulikuwa tumefungua. Over Saturday tu walikuja tu a big group ya more than 100 people. So lakini hawakuweza kuingia ndani, waliingia tu kwa butchery, wakavunja vioo. Kutoka hapo tu sisi tukakaa kule ndani tukazima stima, so hawakuweza kuingia ndani.
As investigations begin, leaders warn that if Kenya fails to separate peaceful protests from criminal acts, the voice of the youth will be drowned out by violence.
All right, and we move on still within Embu County, where Embu Governor Cecily Mbarire has blamed former President Rigathi Gachagua for the unrest in Embu, accusing him of using Manyata MP Gitonga Mukunji as a political spanner boy to destabilize her leadership. She toured affected areas, saying the violence was a deliberate power play disguised as protests. Another short break right here on the Thursday edition of the KUTV Prime Time News. Don't go too far. We have a lot in store for you.
Ni nguzo na uso wa jamii. Kupanda shuka akawa tuzo, ukakamavu wake ukatii na kumfanya mwenye bidii. Kwa machozi na makeke akabaini jinsi ya kuweni. Huyu ni mwanamke ngangari kwa jinsi alivyo ng'ari. Mimi ni mwanamke mwake. Usikose kutazama kipindi cha mwanamke mwake nami Caroline Kimwele.
This is EarthCheck, the program where we keep you up to date on matters concerning the environment, various stories on matters happening concerning conservation of our dear planet, the one and only that we have. Right here on EarthCheck, we are on a series concerning genetic modified organisms.
Modified crops are as safe or even safer than traditionally bred crops.
And their impact on the environment and also their role within it. My name is Emmanuel Kutosi, and this is EarthCheck. Welcome back. Now, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen claims that Wednesday's Gen Z-led protests were infiltrated by criminals ferried from Murang'a, Nyeri and Thika in what he described as a coordinated attempt at a regime change. He vowed to bring perpetrators and their financiers to justice, insisting the state will not tolerate threats to constitutional order.
Unfolded yesterday was not a protest. It was terrorism disguised as dissent. There was no peaceful demonstration. It was riots, chaos, and anarchy. Let me therefore state unequivocally that we condemn the criminal anarchists who, in the name of peaceful demonstrations, unleashed a wave of violence, looting, sexual assault, and destruction upon our people. The criminals were aiming at the officers on duty. They were after guns in the armories and the police uniforms. 5 firearms were stolen in Dagoretti Police Post, Kiambu County, while 4 were burnt at Kashui police post by the very criminals who hid behind the pretense of a peaceful protest.
And still within that beat, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka and DAP Kenya's Eugene Wamalwa and former CS Fred Matiang'i visited Kenyatta National Hospital, where over 150 casualties were admitted following the Gen Z protest. The leaders expressed solidarity with the youth and urged the government to pursue dialogue.
Yesterday was supposed to be a day of commemoration, marking the anniversary of the day that we lost young people last year, 25th of June. We were not supposed to lose another life yesterday. When you introduce the politics of goodness, it's like riding the back of a tiger. No one is in control of those movements. This is where Haiti has reached, because there was a failed regime that allowed goons to take over.
We continue to call them out. Therefore, we call on Kenyans to give information and to know that Justin Muturi and his commission and his commissioners, fellow commissioners, will soon be announcing where to be found, that we will then take a position with regard even to private prosecution.
Now, in Kirinyaga County, 25 youth arrested during the protests have been released on bail. They were arraigned at the Kerugoya Law Courts, where they denied charges of unlawful assembly. The court set the 10th of July as their next appearance.
Parliament, who is Wakili Monene, to ensure that until this matter is concluded, the families get the necessary support, they get the legal assistance, and that our young people are defended to the very end. And I believe that the judiciary will give us justice and protect Article 37 of the Constitution of Kenya, which gives the young people or any other person the right to assemble and picket peacefully.
Ningependa kuuliza ya kwamba hata kama hamutaheshimu watoto, heshimu wazazi wao. Kwa sababu unaposhika mtoto na kumleta korokoroni, unaguza mzazi moja kwa moja. Mzazi aliyekupigia kura, mzazi aliyepoteza wakati wako kukupa nafasi ya uongozi.
But respect is earned, it is not demanded, it is earned. And what the young people are doing is what they are supposed to do, because they have been made tired by the regime that is currently in.
And on to an educational beat, where Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogamba says the competency-based education rollout for senior secondary schools is on track for the year 2026. Addressing school heads at their annual conference in Mombasa County, Ogamba urged educators to step up readiness for the transformative shift.
At the 48th Annual Kenya Secondary School Heads Association Conference held at Sheikh Zayed Hall in Mombasa, Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogamba outlined the government preparedness in transitioning to senior school under the competence-based education system.
I wish to assure the public and all stakeholders that the government is fully prepared for the inaugural transition to senior school. I wish to highlight a few of the steps that have been taken to ensure this smooth transition.
The CS noted that CBE has already been rolled out in over 39,000 primary schools and nearly 27 junior secondary schools countrywide, adding that the focus now shifts to ensuring seamless transition to senior school from January 2026.
Heads of institutions must lead in the adoption of data management, digital literacy, and ICT.
Ogamba praised the head teachers for their commitment, saying their dedication has been key to the successful implementation of the reforms thus far. He also highlighted ongoing collaboration with the Teachers Service Commission, KICD, and other stakeholders to ensure infrastructure, staffing, and learning materials are in place.
We anticipate transitions to senior school in approximately 10,940 secondary schools across the country.
He encouraged principals to make timely infrastructural adjustment and provide adequate guidance to learners in choosing pathways under the new curriculum. He further acknowledged delays in capitation funding, but reassured the conference that the government remains committed to full funding free-day secondary education, revealing that 22 billion had already been disbursed, with 11.6 billion going to secondary schools. The conference themed Embracing Pathways in Senior School Education brought together school heads, education experts and policymakers from across the country to reflect on the reforms championed by the Presidential Working Party on education reforms and two strategies for the future of education in Kenya. Stephen Masha, KUTV, Nairobi.
Okay, we go back to matters concerning the protest where the Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, speaking in Kiambu, has termed the June 25th protest the most destructive since the 2007-2008 crisis. He condemned the violence and accused foreign envoys and some clergy of inciting unrest, warning that lawlessness will not be tolerated.
I want to thank the churches and religious organizations who came out and advised young people to exercise their freedoms peacefully. But there was another group of religious leaders that participated in inciting young people, telling them they have freedom to do whatever they want, the freedom to steal people's property, the freedom to beat up people, the freedom to burn police stations, the freedom to burn courtrooms, the freedom to rape women. And I want to ask those church leaders whether what we saw yesterday is what they were advocating for.
All right, with the finger pointing, the blames and the accusations, we take another short break right here on the KUTV Primetime News. Don't go too far because we have a lot more in store for you.
Hi, my name is Stella Tioi.
Jina langu naitwa Okemwa Mkwa James.
This is Mandela Gaya.
Ugonjwa ulipokuja ulichukua siku 3 ukaniweka in coma. 20 wamezikwa, 2 ndio wako hai.
I don't even know how it feels to see.
I feel like I cannot express myself well the way somebody who can walk can actually express themselves.
Ilichukua muda mwingi mrefu tena mpana ili kuikubali kwamba mimi siwezi tembea tena.
I've come to actually accept myself.
Ukijaribu kumsimamisha mtu umwambie tafadhali nionyeshe njia.
They find it quite strange talking to you.
We should just make schools integrated,
Inclusive setups.
by providing the right facilities.
Tunachimba hadi mizizi kukuletea yanayojiri.
So mimi naomba tu serikali yetu ya Mungu, jibarikiwe na Mungu, iweze kuteremsha bei ya mafuta.
Yanayokukumba tuna maizi, tunakutetea sisiri. Kwa kweli ni speciali tukikupambia makala ya mwanamke mwake. Utasema hupendi mizizi ya habari. Nami Caroline Kimwe.
Minutes past the top of the hour, and we are waist deep into the Thursday edition of the KUTV Prime Time News. Now, the Law Society of Kenya has condemned the media blackout, police brutality, and destruction of court infrastructure during the June 25th protest. The society called on the communication authorities directive unconstitutional and criticized the use of hired guns to escalate the violence. And now to matters of national affairs, where Kenya has reaffirmed its commitment to the African Union reforms. President William Ruto met AU Chair Commissioner Muhammad Ali Yusuf at State House, Nairobi, to discuss funding and structural efficiency as part of Africa's border integration and advocacy strategy. Now on to health matters, where a 3-day medical outreach by the Kenyatta University and the University of Kentucky has provided essential health services to residents of Kijabe Escarpment. The partnership also offered medical students hands-on experience in delivering care in remote communities.
Residents of Kijabe this week got to access free medical services ranging from lab tests and ultrasound to general health checkups during a just concluded medical camp organized by various partners. The 3 days outreach brought together Kenyatta University, the University of Kentucky, and the non-profit Worldwide Hearts and Hands, which has worked in the area since 2002.
Tunakuwa tunaishia nyumbani tukiwa wagonjwa juu ya madawa kuwa inakosa kwa hospitali. Pia saa inaenda iko na mashida mingi. Ukienda kwa hospitali unapanga laini kwa masaa mingi, na after all ukakosa ya madawa, ukakosa kuona daktari juu ya kukosa pesa.
Nilikuwa nimekuja hospitali nitibiwe, nilikuwa na shida ya roho na nikapewa dawa. Hiyo dawa nikaona iko na nzuri kama vile nilikuwa nimepewa Kenyatta. Sasa nikaona hiyo iko na nguvu kama ile nilitumia na nikafurahia sana.
The team from the University of Kentucky included volunteer doctors that partnered with Kenyatta University's Medical Research Club students to deliver services while offering both sides a chance to learn from each other.
So we are having 3 days of the medical camp, and we hope to see as many patients as possible and get them established with good follow-up care in the local system. Well, we are very...
So the hope is that this can be an ongoing program where not only faculty physicians can come, but also student or indoor resident physicians can come and rotate here through this area and working both here in Escarpment and perhaps also, we're not sure yet whether it's through Kenyatta or whether it's through Kijabe.
During the camp, Kenyatta University students got a chance to be paired with Kentucky doctors interpreting drug names, explaining local protocols, and gaining field experience.
We are used to going to the hospital and seeing patients from that setup, but now here we get now to the community and experience medicine at the community level. So it's more of community health. We are paired with the Kentucky University lecturers and physicians, so we are able to also get a touch of their way of doing medicine in their world.
Organizers say this is a pilot initiative which plans to expand, strengthen referral networks, and introduce telemedicine. Dr. Titus Kahiga from Kenyatta University says the goal is long-term research, training, and sustainable community impact.
That is a program that we've already started. We are hoping that we can expand it. Basically, it is taking advantage of technology, because patients can be seen in our hospitals, in our training hospitals, or any other site that we train, and this information can be shared virtually with consultants, both locally and abroad, and they're going to manage this patient virtually, because you are able to take pictures, you are able to take ultrasound or whatever imagery, and a decision can be made in terms of managing these patients in our setups.
With the conclusion of this 3 days medical camp here at Escarpment, it is the hope of residents that more of such initiatives that bring healthcare closer home can be a new norm. Yvonne Kemuma, KUTV, Kiambu.
Thank you, Yvonne Kioma Monari, for that report. Now, in the wake of the Gen Z-led protest that turned deadly, a controversial media blackout ordered by the government has triggered a fierce national debate and concern over the state of press freedom in Kenya. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has come out swinging, defending the decision that saw leading stations such as KTN, NTV, and K24 go off air during Wednesday's chaotic demonstrations. All right, and moving on further, a rising number of children in Siaya County are being forced to grow up too fast, pushed out of school and into adulthood by tragedy and neglect. A case in point being in Sidada village, where 2 teenage brothers have been left to shoulder the weight of a family alone, orphaned, abandoned, and struggling to survive. Their story has sparked conversation around child protection rural poverty, and the role of the government intervention.
In the quiet village of Sidada, teen brothers Alvin Onyango and Johannes Omondi have become heads of their household, not by choice, but by circumstance. After losing their father and being abandoned by their mother, the two now shoulder adult responsibilities in a bid to care for their younger siblings. One does manual jobs while the other works as a casual caretaker, hoping to put food on the table. They both dropped out of school but say if given a chance, they will return in a heartbeat. For now, their focus is simple survival.
Babangu alikufa mwezi wa 10 2019. Ndio mamangu alituacha after some 5 months. Alituacha kaenda. Tukaishi Madea. Huko tukateseka. Tukarudi huku ya karudi 2021. Nikasoma Sidada class 6, class 7, class 8. Alafu ndio tena akaanza kugongana na walimu huko. Waangalie tu vile wanaweza kutusaidia, tunataka turudi shule. Tunataka siku moja tukue watu wakubwa, tukue watu wabora wenye wanaweza saidia jamii.
Nilisema nataka kuturudisha shule. Nilisema brother yangu alisema ati kama wanaleta kitu ya kukula, kukataza kuenda shule sio ngumu, tunaenda tu.
Sidada village elder Wilson Ogola Onyango says the brothers have faced a tough life since their father's death. While the community has tried to help, he admits their needs are far beyond what local can provide. He's now calling for urgent state intervention to save the boys from a life of perpetual struggle.
Ukweli, usaidizi ya hawa watoto inatakikana kwa hii kijiji. Hii kijiji tumejaribu tangu wazazi wao wakufe, mzazi baba. Hawajakaa na amani. Na yenyewe area hii sio hao peke yao ndio yatima, wako wengi na wako wengi. Kama mngekuwa na nafasi pia siku nyingine mnaweza kuja niwapeleke kwa wengine.
Meanwhile, the head teacher of the youngest child's school says the boy was often going without lunch until the school enrolled him in a feeding program. He wants that many other children face similar challenges, and without enough support, schools may be forced to turn them away.
There's a boy that I've mentioned his name, Neville Odhiambo from grade 5. He's a boy who comes from that child-aided family. When we interviewed the boy at school, many occasions or many times, he goes without lunch. So as a school, we have we don't have a serious lunch program, but we are feeding our grade 6, 7, 8 on Nyoyo lunchtime. So we had to bring in this boy.
There are even allegations that some villagers have been exploiting the boy's vulnerability. Local community-based organizations are raising red flags, urging authorities to step in before more children slip through the cracks. Without help, the future of these brothers remain uncertain, but with compassion, intervention and opportunity, they could still rise above their painful beginnings. Edna Nerea, KUTV.
It's about that time to get sporty, and Nairobi is set to host the Africa Zone Sitting Volleyball Championship from the 1st to the 10th of July. Kenya will open against Algeria in the men's pool and face Nigeria and Rwanda in the women's groups as both teams aim for continental dominance. .47 minutes past the top of the hour, and we are on our way out of the Thursday edition of the KUTV Prime Time News, much to the appeasement of my director Melton Conchella, who keeps scaring me that he's going away or he's going anywhere. But someone who's going places here is Faith Kipyegon. As news just in is that Faith Kipyegon nearly broke the 4 minutes in the mile, running 1 mile in 4 minutes. Now, it was a project that was held in Paris, France, at the Stade Sébastien Chartley, where she was able to run 4 minutes and 6 seconds and 42 milliseconds. Quite a commendable beat right there, and some positive reports at least coming in. A lot has been transpiring in the nation, and of course we invite you to join the conversation and keep it going through our social media handles. You can be able to reach me at _Emmanuel Kutosi, at _KUTV Kenya, and also on Facebook at KUTV Kenya. To the whole team, including the leadership of our head of department and head of news right here, Caroline Kimwele, and my own producer, Yvonne Monari. I appreciate the work that you've been putting into this, and also the whole team that was involved in the production of tonight's broadcast. From me, Emmanuel Kutosi, and the sign language interpretation, Sami Okelo. It's good night. Stay safe. Stay smart.
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
The Bible says, when he spoke, then he spoke a parable to them, that men always ought to pray and not lose heart.
Christ says, I stand in the door and I knock. Whoever hears my voice and opens, I will dwell with him.
Like the moon, I will fade, but like the star, I will rise again. And though I fall, be rest assured that I will rise again.
Go to the hospitals, tell them that God will heal them. Go to the prisons, tell them that they'll be free. Go to the crusades and tell people that Christ is coming, and sooner than the word itself, the second advent is imminent.
Shaka mtazamaji popote ulipo, unapokuwa ukitazama Safina Show
inang'oananga sasa hivi. Ungana nami Albanas Mwania, nahodha wa Safina Show, nikutoe ng'ambo ya pili hadi ufuoni. Safina Show, sauti ya matumaini.
This program is rated 16. The content is restricted to only those above 16 years.